Welcome to Master 79. In this lesson, we tackle an ielts writing task 1 3-line graph showing Australia's trade and build a band 9 model answer together, step by step. Here is the task. The charts illustrate Australia's trade values with 3 different countries from 2004 to 2009. We must give an overview of the key details and make comparisons where appropriate. Notice 3 separate graphs, one each for China, Japan, and the United States. Let's read the data. In every graph, the solid line is exports and the dashed line is imports measured in billions of Australian dollars. With China, exports start low but climb steeply and overtake imports. With Japan, exports rise to a sharp peak in 2008. With the United States, imports stay high while exports remain much lower. Before writing, let's brainstorm. First, the dramatic movements. China's exports rocket upward and overtake its imports by 2009. Japan's exports spike to a sharp peak in 2008, then fall. Now the steady lines. Imports from Japan stay almost flat at just over 20 billion for the whole period. And with the United States, imports are high and stable, while exports stay low throughout. From that, our overview writes itself. China grew far faster than the other two partners. Australia held a surplus with Japan, but a lasting deficit with the United States, and exports overtook imports only in the case of China. Crucially, the overview carries no specific figures. Here is the planned. Paragraph 1, a paraphrased introduction. Paragraph 2, the overview, the two biggest trends with no numbers. Paragraph 3 groups the two surpluses, China and Japan. Paragraph 4 covers the one deficit, the United States. Paragraph 1, the introduction. The 3-line graphs compare the value of Australia's exports to and imports from China, Japan, and the United States measured in billions of Australian dollars over the 6 years from 2004 to 2009. Paragraph 2, the overview. Overall, trade with China expanded far more dramatically than with either of the other partners, and Australian exports climbed from well below imports to clearly above them. Australia ran a consistent surplus with Japan throughout, whereas its trade with the United States stayed in persistent deficit. Paragraph 3, China and Japan. In 2004, Australia imported roughly $20 billion of goods from China, but exported only around $13 billion. Exports then rose steadily and surged after 2007, reaching about $30 billion in 2009 and overtaking imports, which had leveled off near $30 billion. Trade with Japan had a different shape. Exports began at around $20 billion, edged up to nearly $30 billion by 2007, then spiked to a peak of about $41 billion in 2008 before falling back to roughly $31 billion. Imports from Japan, by contrast, stayed almost flat at just over $20 billion across the whole period. Paragraph 4, the United States. The pattern here was the reverse, as imports consistently exceeded exports. Australian imports fluctuated only slightly, rising from about $21 billion in 2004 to a height of around $24 billion in 2008 before easing to $22 billion. Exports were far lower throughout, starting below $10 billion and never rising above the $14 billion reached in 2008, after which they too declined. Why does this score band 9? Task achievement, a clear overview with accurate selective data. Coherence, logical grouping by country with smooth linkers. Lexical resource, precise trade language like surged, leveled off, surplus and deficit. And grammatical range controlled complex sentences and comparisons. One honest note, band 9 here reflects an internal writing quality check against the public ielts descriptors, not a certified examiner score. That's the full method. Read the lines, brainstorm the movers and the steady trends, plan 4 paragraphs, then write. If this helped, subscribe to Master 79 for more ielts practice. Good luck with your writing.